Nothing Jesus ever does is coincidence or accident. Many preachers preaching for weddings over the years have used this account from the wedding of Cana. And they have lauded the way Jesus thought so much of weddings that he had never let the wine run out. Or they have preached as though this text were about how much Jesus loves people, and so he'd even go against his conscience rather than let Ashnab and Salome be embarrassed by the fact that their wine ran out. But the truth is that this text really has very little to do with weddings. Nor did Jesus just stumble into the situation and shake a miracle out of his sleeve because he got cornered by his mom. Read through the Old Testament and see how many times God uses marriage as a metaphor for his relationship to us. We are his bride, and he is our bridegroom. In fact, there is no closer relationship on earth than the husband-wife relationship. It's the closest we'll ever get, at least in this life, to understanding our relationship with God. And I mean that in both good and bad times in marriage. Because you see, the best way to understand how sin hurts God is to understand how we feel when our spouse hurts us. And the best way we can understand how God forgives us is when we learn to forgive our spouse and to forgive ourselves within the context of earthly marriage. Now you have to go read Hosea if you want further instruction on forgiveness in marriage. But for now, listen to Isaiah. For as a young man marries a young woman, so shall your sons marry you. And as the bridegroom rejoices over the bride, so shall your God rejoice over you. So Jesus went to a wedding intentionally to teach us something about his relationship with us. And what were we supposed to learn? Besides the fact that Jesus can make really good wine, and that even Jesus caves in when his mom nags enough. First, pay attention that it was the third day that it took place. Does it ring a bell for anyone? Because you see, I don't think John recorded that it was the third day of the wedding feast that the miracle happened because he wanted to be precise in his recording. In fact, John's the evangelist who couldn't care less about being precise. John's all concerned about themes and ideas and pictures. It's Mark, if you want to be precise. He's the one who has the hang up for being accurate all the time. Of course the miracle happened on the third day because it was to be a sign of the relationship that is being established on the third day after Jesus is crucified. See, that's when Jesus fulfilled his marriage vows to us. You will be my people, and I will be your God. Now, a sign for a Christian is not anything magical or mystical. We don't believe in seeing the future. We don't believe in luck. We don't believe in chance. That's the way people in this world talk about signs all the time. We have confidence, complete confidence in the will of God. A sign for us is something that God uses to remind us of his will for us. These are truths that are really bigger than human language. And sadly, human language is all we have to use to describe it. And so it's almost impossible for us to understand. How does God feel about us? There are no words for that in human language. So God uses the wedding of Cana and many other things to give us a picture to see, a picture to experience. Remember that feeling that you got in the pit of your stomach when you fell hopelessly in love? Everyone who has ever fallen in love knows how wonderful and how terrible that feeling is at the same time. And it is a beautiful thing when that feeling is brought to fulfillment in marriage. It doesn't work out that way all the time, I understand, because of human sinfulness and the fact that we live in a broken world. But when it does work, marriage is the completion of the love into which we fell. The best way we can begin to understand God's extreme love for us is by examining our deepest love for one another. Because really, it's only our only reference point. So Jesus is at the wedding of Cana, and the wedding reception is going full force, and they run out of wine. Now remember that wedding parties in Jesus' time lasted for days. And remember that wine for the Hebrew is the elixir of life. It's not just something to drink. Rather, wine is representative of everything good and everything beautiful in the world. And the better the wine, the better the representation. So, if the wedding is representative of our relationship with God, and the wine runs out, that's a very bad thing. Not to worry, because Mother Mary knows what to do. She knows somewhere deep within her soul that her son Jesus is the one who keeps the wine flowing in our marriage to God. And so she goes to him at once. Now, does she really understand at this point all the symbolism that's going on around her? Probably not. But her faith is at work, and she understands that Jesus can do something powerful and important. And exactly what it was would not really become completely clear to her until after the resurrection. But even now, early in his ministry, she knew that he could fix huge problems, and this was a huge problem. And so she went to him, and notice how he worked her faith a little bit first. How he sort of reminded her that it was he who was steering the ship and not she. But in the end, she gave the faithful answer. Do whatever he tells you. Now that's the final answer to just about everything. If we could just get to that answer more quickly, our lives would be so much more simple and so much more joyful. Do whatever he tells you. Mary gives the answer to the mystery of life. Just do what Jesus says and stop questioning and stop arguing and stop trying to do it yourself. So there were 6 stone jugs, and they were used there for the rite of Jewish purification. But you can perform all the rites of the law that you want. The law cannot purify us. The law always and only accuses us. The water for the Jews is symbolic of washing away the sin, but the water could not address the cause of the sin. No matter how much you washed, the real problem was never fixed. So no matter how well you use the water, still only water. And water is not Jesus' wine. You can follow the rules. You can live an outwardly righteous life. You can even judge everyone who fails to live up to your standards and twist your elbow, patting yourself on the back. You can condemn everyone else who is off track, and guess what? You're still drinking nothing but water. Because the sweet wine of the gospel only comes from Jesus. So that's what he did. He took that watery law and he fulfilled it. He kept it perfectly. And he created wine like no one has ever tasted. He created gospel Everything is new now. The old has passed away. The law is fulfilled and the sweet wine of the gospel flows through us. You and I see we don't have to hold on to old grudges. We don't have to hold on to bad memories. We don't have to hold on to righteous or unrighteous anger. Why would you drink old, nasty, stale water that's been sitting around in stone jugs in the heat of the day when you could drink the cool, sweet wine of the gospel? That's why we can forgive. That's why we can make godly choices. We can bathe in baptismal waters freely and freely consume the very body and blood of Christ. And in so doing, we can grow closer and stronger in our relationship to God. That is what we do until that great and glorious day on which we get to meet our bridegroom face to face.